All right, at this time, Scott, are we recording? All right, at this time, we'll call this meeting to order. Please silence any cell phones or electronic devices that you may have at this time. And at this time, we'll have John Penny lead us in our invocation, and please continue standing. I'll do it afterwards. Please continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear gracious God, we thank you for the many gifts you bestowed upon us all. We ask that you place your hand of blessing on this meeting tonight. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so it's full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. We ask that you protect our men and women in the armed forces as they protect our freedoms that so many take for granted. We ask that you keep our city teammates safe as they do their jobs. God, please bless this meeting, this city, and our great country. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here. And now we'll move down to public hearings, second readings, budget. Number one, resolution 2019-R-56. Joe? Or Scott?
Resolution 2019-R-56 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission, City Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the final levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Holly Hill for the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 through 2020, and providing for severability and providing for an effective date. And I also need to state that the fiscal year 2019-2020 final operating millage is 6.25 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 6.1047 mils by 2.38%.
Thank you, Scott. Joe, there have been some developments since the last reading. Would you like to update us on that?
Yeah, since the last reading, the Finance Department had gone back, and actually the Finance Director was able to identify a couple of locations that actually had dollars that were budgeted in two line items. And as a result of that, I don't want to call it excess money, but there were monies that were double budgeted, so it's money that's available. So one of the recommendations that I had made was that we would distribute that money, and I don't have it up, but it would be approximately $200,000 would go back into the reserves. We'd keep a contingency fund of about $63,000 in the budget. We'd lower the millage from 6.5 to 6.25, and we would keep $125,000 set aside for the storage facility that needed to be put in over the Public Works yard that we had taken out of the budget. In doing that, we would be able to reduce the millage, accomplishing a little bit of what your desire was to come back below the current rate, not quite at the rollback rate, but at the current rate. And you know, we now, in doing this, we have a sustained, balanced budget. I sent out an email today to each of you that showed where we are with those dollars, what we are taking monies out of reserve funds to pay for. In all of the budgets, everything that's coming out of the reserves are going for one-time expenditures in capital, except in the water department, where we are using reserves to balance the operating budget. And that'll resolve itself over time because we've implemented that new utility rate structure. I'll answer any other questions you have. If there's any specific questions you need that I don't have, I'm sure Stella will be able to come up and help us out.
Perfect. Is there any questions from the Commission for staff? My only question was, as I did get that email, and I just wanted you to restate that last point that the reserves will only be going to that water fund to fund the operating there, right?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to pull that email up. So,
no worries. Stella, do you know that answer? Could you please come to the dais?
Here it is.
Just state your name and,
Stella Grenay, Finance Director. Yes, the Water Sewer Fund was the only fund that the reserves were being used for actual operations.
perfect.
And only a portion of it. It wasn't the full amount of the reserve.
And that'll fix itself with the new
The
increases.
new rate structure is going to
Right.
help us to get that balance in the budget, and those funds are also going to be used for supporting not only the operations, but other items that we have to spend money on
Right.
in the water and wastewater department.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open this up to public participation. This is the public's opportunity to speak to the commission about this specific item, about adopting the final levy of the millage rate. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for clarification, a motion to approve at 6.25 mils.
Yeah, that's the resolution.
That's,
That was
yeah,
Right.
that's the-
Just wanted to clarify. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving to item 2, Resolution 2019-R-57. Scott?
Resolution number 2019-R-57, by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the final budget for the City of Holly Hill for the fiscal year 2019-2020, and providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on the budget? Any updates for us, Joe?
Nothing more than I've communicated with you through emails, but we just talked about some of those dollars going out. We were able to add that storage facility over at the Public Works yards. That was the email that you didn't find. But other than that, the budget is balanced. I think we're in good shape, providing a good level of service that I think the commission wants to provide to the citizens. And I thank the commission for their guidance and support in moving forward with both the millage rate and the budget that's presented before you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll open this up to public participation. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to the commission on this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed?
No discussion, but I would like to once again thank staff for all of your hard work. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? I too would like to commend staff for going back to the budget. I commend this commission for some of the spirited debates we had last time about this, and so I really appreciate, Stella, how much time and effort you put into this and to find these savings so we can go ahead and bring our millage rate down, balance the budget. I really appreciate your hard work, and you as well, Joe. So with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to the fun stuff, the Positivity Award. So the city has created a Positivity Award. Actually, it was created by former mayor and now Commissioner John Penny, and to recognize people in our community that are out there doing positive deeds and really pushing the good image of Holly Hill forward. And so I think that Commissioner Penny has really chose a wonderful person tonight that really embodies everything Holly Hill proud, is what I like to say. And so I'll let Commissioner Penny describe the person that he chose tonight.
Thank you. My selection is Kelly Ferguson in the farthest seat in the back of the room, but we're going to make her come up here in a minute. Kelly and her husband John moved to Holly Hill about 6.5 years ago, and I can't tell you how many times I've had interactions with her, and she told me how happy she is to live in our city. Kelly's one of the most positive people I have ever met. She's a director of public and government affairs for Advent Health, so if you need any help over at the hospital, call her. She's also a licensed real estate agent, and she often steers her clients to our city when they're looking for new houses to relocate in the area. I don't think she has the ability to tell anyone no if you ask her for help. So if you need help on a project, Kelly is a sucker for that. Last year, I asked her to be a citizen advocate for our city, and without hesitation, she agreed for that role. She met with every member of our Volusia County delegation in Tallahassee, and she even traveled to Tallahassee with us to help us support our city's home rule. She always greets you with a smile that lights up the room. She was standing out there shaking hands earlier when I saw her, and she just has a sense about her. She's always happy. Her sense of humor can often be seen on her Instagram and Facebook posts. If you follow her, she is hilarious. The Positivity Award was created for someone exactly like Kelly Ferguson, and I can't think of anyone else that is more Holly Hill proud and deserves a Positivity Award than Kelly Ferguson. So thank you.
So come on up to the front. Sign.
Don't run with this, Kelly.
If we go in order,
So for our winners of the Positivity Award, we give them a sign. There's a few of them in the audience tonight, and they get to place it in front of their house or business to show off how proud of Holly Hill they are and that they're positive. So with that, here is the proclamation of your Positivity Award. Thank you very much. And John, you want to hold that one in there? There we go. All right, big smile. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate it. Absolutely.
So we'll be seeing that on the other
I'm
side.
gonna go put it in there right now.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Where am I going?
All right, and with that, we'll move on to public comments. This is the public's opportunity to speak to the commission about any items that are not on our regular agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission? Is it not on the regular agenda?
I don't know.
Oh, no, that's coming up later. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comments, and we'll move to the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience like to discuss the minutes? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to the consent agenda, items 1 through 8. Joe, did you want to remove an item?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to remove item number 2, which is Resolution 2019 R59,
All right.
for further discussion.
Is there any other commissioner that would like, yes?
Item 5.
5. Any other items to remove from the commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll open up discussion, public comment. Does anyone in the audience like to speak to the consent agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now, item 2, Resolution 2019-R-59.
This resolution is for the city to purchase vehicles off of the statewide sheriff's contract. We typically will buy vehicles off that contract, and it's not just police vehicles, it's different types of vehicles that are on that. And I'd like the commission to go ahead and approve this resolution authorizing us to make the vehicle purchases from the sheriff's contract. But at the same time, I would also like you to waive the procurement process and authorize the Public Works Director to negotiate with local car dealerships a potential better price. Very often, the sheriff's contract is the best price that you can get, but in many cases, it's a convenience pricing. And there are times when you can negotiate a price that's better than what's on the sheriff's contract. So I'd like to go ahead and approve that contract, but then also do a motion waiving the procurement process and authorizing the Public Works Director to negotiate with local auto dealers for a better price on these same vehicles.
So two different motions?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay with that?
All right. Any questions for staff?
Close enough?
At this time, we'll open this up to public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the city commission on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation and entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
Motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So now you need another motion.
It would be a motion to waive the procurement process for vehicle purchases and authorize the Public Works Director to negotiate with local automotive dealers for the vehicles that are on the purchase list
At a price less than
at a price less than
what could be on the piggyback.
On the
Sheriff's.
piggyback. So whichever one is less. Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval as stated.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So item 5, Commissioner Penny.
I just asked to pull 5 because I will not be voting on it. I have a perceived conflict of interest. My brother is a vice president with the company that's receiving the award.
Okay. Do you need to step down?
No, I just
While we
didn't
vote? Okay. Joe, would you like to comment on this? I think we're pretty good.
No, it's just
Other than
perception
removing.
of conflict of interest, and that's the only reason.
All right. With that, we'll open this up to public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our regular agenda. Ordinance 2019-0-3022.
Ordinance number 2019-0-3022 by title only for first reading. Ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, amending the land development regulations by rezoning the parcel described in Exhibit A from MPUD Mixed Use Development District to MPUD Mixed Use Development District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, Mr. Walker, take it away.
Evening, Mayor, Board. Brian Walker, Community Development Director. This is to consider a rezone from MPUD, which stands for Mixed Use Plan Unit Development, to MPUD, and includes a request for a density bonus for approximately 5 acres, and this is the property that's located on the corner of 3rd Street and Ridgewood Avenue. This property was originally rezoned from CC1 and R2, which is a residential zoning designation, to MPUD back in January of 2006. And based on that agreement, the current MPUD is able to develop the property for a multifamily residential project, a building approximately 170 feet high. Also, there would be some commercial uses and a public plaza that are part of the MPUD that exists now. The applicant is requesting a change. It's still an MPUD. It's a rezone from MPUD to MPUD, but they're asking for the change in that the development of the property would be an affordable senior living community. Now, they have a mixed-use 2 future land use, which allows a density of 20 dwelling units an acre, but that is able to be increased if certain performance standards are being met. If those standards are met, then they're able to get an additional 15 dwelling units an acre, which would be a total of 35 units an acre for those performance standards that have to do with innovation and quality design. The applicant is requesting that density bonus of 15 dwelling units an acre for a total of 35. The criteria for the bonuses and those performance standards is stated in your staff report. The applicant's response as to how they meet that criteria is in the staff report as well. Staff has reviewed the applicant's proposed performance standard bonuses and recommends approval of the density bonuses. Also in your staff report, you'll find that there are differences that are laid out between the current PD and the proposed PD. The zoning and future land use of the properties surrounding the property under discussion are listed in the staff report, and there's also a site analysis. And all of these things, I can be happy to go into more detail on each of them if you would like. A couple of things that staff looks at very closely when considering a rezone are whether or not it's consistent with the land development regulations and whether or not it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. This request is consistent with the land development regulations and the surrounding area. It's consistent with the objectives of the PUD zoning designation because, among other things, it supports the goal of integrated development. It promotes a mixture of housing costs and types. And this MPUD is allowed under the mixed-use 2 future land use designation. The future land use designation and the zoning designation have to be compatible, and in this case they are. With regard to consistency with the comprehensive plan, one of the things that we look at is policy flu 1.1.2, and this has to do again with density, and we make sure that the project meets the density that is permitted under the future land use. This project, again, they are requesting a density bonus so that they're able to get a maximum of 35 dwelling units an acre, and that would be permitted under the mixed-use 2 future land use. The proposed mixed-use 2 future land use, or the proposed mixed-use plan unit development is compatible with the allowable uses and density provisions, and therefore meets the requirements for the comp plan. At its meeting on Monday, May 23rd, the Board of Planning and Appeals unanimously recommended approval of the
September 23rd.
I'm sorry.
Just for the record.
Monday, September 23rd. Monday, September 23rd. The BOPA did unanimously recommend approval of this rezone. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Commission adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from MPUD, Mixed-Use Plan Unit Development, to MPUD Mixed-Use Plan Unit Development, and approve the associated development agreement, including a density bonus of 15 dwelling units per acre, and the preliminary development plan for approximately 5.4 acres for property located on the northeast corner of Ridgewood Avenue and 3rd Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Is there any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Brian, when I was going over the agenda with Mr. Forte, you came in the room and we were talking about phase 2 of this project, and that I had some requests from the residents to make sure that there was a buffer or an increased buffer at the end of Merriam. There's a dumpster location there, and there was concern that there might, the pictures we showed didn't show the landscaping, and we were seeing if this is the appropriate time to discuss additional buffer via a wall or landscaping or moving that dumpster so it's not right up to that road. Is this the appropriate time to talk about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that is.
I don't know how we fix it, but I just know that's the concerns that I got on the phone calls I received.
So to
Was
clarify,
up in the left corner where it says, you can see Miriam, can you read that up there? There's a dumpster up there at a 45-degree angle almost.
yeah.
Can you point it out, Scott?
Yeah, my cursor doesn't get any bigger.
A little bit
Laser pointer.
further down than that.
Down a bit.
Just a little bit down and to the right.
It's the shaded one.
To the right.
And I know
Yep.
this could be years in the future, I understand, but I need to make sure that we address it now, is that the concern was that that dumpster dumping to and fro when the garbage truck comes, that it might be noise, and could we add a concrete wall, a vinyl wall, foliage, something, move that dumpster somewhere? I'm not an architect or an engineer, but that was the main concern that I had received.
And we have the applicant here, Ms. Walker, if you'd like
Right.
to allow them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Good evening.
Yes, just state your name for the record.
Michael Schnapps-Tyler with Cobb Cole, 149 South Ridgewood Avenue, Daytona Beach, on behalf of the applicant, Madison Bay LLC. Just really quickly to answer your question, it is a fully enclosed dumpster with a concrete wall. It will only be built as part of Phase 2, so it would not be there before the Phase 2 were to be developed. And then, as we can see there, it's surrounded by a minimum 12-foot landscape buffer along the north and east side outside of that concrete wall that's going to be there as well. So the looks of it, it looks like it's about 15, maybe even 20 feet based on the way those lines are there. So it is fully enclosed with gates on the front, concrete on the back, would only be open when the trash was moved, and again, would only be built as part of the second phase of the development. It would not be there in advance of that.
I understand that. I don't know anything about planning and where garbage dumpsters are supposed to be and not supposed to be, and I don't know if, Brian, in your experience, you have a better way to insulate that with, I don't know if there needs to be, if bushes stop the noise or if another fence stops the noise. That's the only concern. And the person that called me wasn't able to be here. They have a handicap and weren't able to be here, so they wanted me to make sure I voiced that opinion to the commission.
And also, I'll allow you to do a presentation right after our questions,
Absolutely.
okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Schnapps-Tyler. Mr. Walker?
The dumpster location is not an uncommon location, but we can certainly talk with the applicant about doing things to minimize and mitigate noise. I realize there are homes on that side.
I mean, it simply looks like you could shift it to the right and put a cat corner the other way and open and close that way. I don't know. I'm not trying to come up with a solution, Brian. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to bring it up before it's too late and we can't ever bring it up in the future.
Maybe that a fence or something or a wall back there might be a solution.
Right, but do we have to come up with
Well-
that solution right now?
My question is, does the dump truck come off of Miriam or come through?
Miriam's a dead end.
Okay.
Right.
Miriam's dead
I didn't
end.
know if they were opening it.
I can get with the applicant. I think the applicant understands this is an important issue to the board, and we'll be able to come up with some alternatives
Okay.
by second reading.
Okay.
That's my concern, yeah.
Great. And the applicant will be able to address that when he comes up as well. Are there any other questions for staff? My question for you, Ms. Walker, it's unusual for us to have a BOPA meeting right back to back, but obviously because of scheduling we had to. I wasn't able to listen to the discussion. Was there any major concerns that was brought up by the BOPA or discussion that we should be aware of? I wasn't able to view that today.
The BOPA did unanimously recommend the project. There were some changes that were made between, and I apologize for not bringing this up sooner, some minor changes that were made in the MPUD agreement. For example, on page 2, under item 3, development standards, on 3B, where it says the minimum average size of dwelling units would be 574 square feet, the word average was stricken.
Say that one more time. The minimum.
Where it says the minimum average size of dwelling units, so they would be able to possibly go smaller than 574 if they were averaging, but now that possibility has been removed because the word average has been taken out. So the minimum size dwelling unit will be 574 square feet.
Who caught that?
Yeah, that's a good catch. So you, Scott?
I think that was our city attorney,
I thought it was chairman.
was one of them.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Someone asked what the minimum size was, and then I asked, well, can we delete average? And they said,
Perfect.
Under item D, the words 170 have been stricken, and the maximum height will be 80 feet.
For what? 80 feet for what?
The height of the building.
The height of the building.
And it wasn't that they were planning on a 170-foot building. You can look in the drawing in the upper left-hand corner. It's a seven-story building. They were proposing the least amount of changes as possible, and so it was up to 170. They were building 80, going to be less than 80 actually. So just for some reassurance purposes, we went ahead and changed it to say it won't exceed 80 feet.
Perfect. Yes,
And-
Commissioner Penny?
Brian, under the original PUD, doesn't this property have a residential parcel that goes to Daytona Avenue?
Yes.
And
That's the,
is the retention pond go there, or is it stop? It stops short of there, right? So
Right.
what happens? Are they separating that parcel? What happens to that parcel that abuts Daytona Avenue?
that parcel is by way of a lot line reconfiguration being broken off, and it's going to remain a single-family home.
Okay.
The retention pond is actually going to be to the west of that,
It's where that, okay.
right? It's
Right,
going
it's
to
where
be
that other square is?
right
in that area,
exactly in
right,
that area.
right, okay.
Yes. And so the parts that have been broken off are the single-family home, and then to the north, some motel units. In order for those ever to be used, or if anything happens and they want to do something else with the property, they're going to have to rezone it. Because right now, those pieces still are part of the original PD, but they're not going to be able to meet the conditions of that PD. So these are kind of legal non-conforming pieces with regard to zoning. So as long as the house stays, it will be fine. The motel continues, but they won't be able to change or expand or anything like that.
Mayor,
Thank you.
I
Yes,
don't have a
Commissioner
question.
Daniel.
I just had a couple concerns that were brought to my attention about,
Actually, would it be a good idea, and because what you're saying and what you said, one of the things we need to do is we need to disclose ex parte communication, which is communications you've had outside the meeting with individuals. Obviously, John, you had one,
Yes, I had one.
and so you've disclosed it. So it's a good time for you to disclose your two. A couple you said. So
well,
whoever's
a
contacted-
couple was father, son that came in
Okay.
to the store, and they were
And
just,
disclose it.
and the son lives on Miriam. And
Okay.
you've already stated that Miriam is not by any way going to be affected as far as going through.
No.
Right. So it wasn't a question, it was just pretty much I'm stating that that's,
And I think it would also be good if we allow the applicant to do their presentation, because that may address some of your questions or raise other questions. And as you get into your discussions about this, I just want to remind you that the information that you received as you're sitting in a quasi-judicial manner is you're sitting there like a judge, and you're going to base your decision on the information and the evidence that's presented before you this evening that's in a substantial competent format. So in other words, a rumor or an individual's opinion that is not based on fact is not really to be taken into consideration as you make your judgment and your decisions.
Right.
Does anybody else have ex parte communications they need to disclose?
Anybody else? I have expert communication. I've talked to Christine Capers. I had questions about the property. So, Ms. Walker, with that, we'll go ahead and allow the applicant to come up and give his presentation, and just stand by. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come up and give a presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, once again, Michael Schnapps-Tyler with Cobb Cole, 149 South Ridgewood Avenue, Daytona Beach, on behalf of the applicant, Madison Bay LLC. The client representative, Stacy Bannock, is here tonight, along with the property owner, Black River LLC, and their representative, Mr. John Rainey, as well as some of our team members from Cobb Cole that have helped out on this project. Very excited to share client's vision for this, key property in Holly Hill with you all. I do have a short PowerPoint, but I just wanted to start with some of the questions that were asked of staff earlier. The goal behind this project was to be as consistent with your vision for this area and this neighborhood that staff, who we've worked really well with, provided us with. So intentionally, we moved the buildings up closer to Ridgewood to keep it away from those residential streets. You'll see that there's tree buffers there already, and then our stormwater ponds serve as a buffer as well. between those residential neighborhoods back there. And then just to close the loop on the question about the dumpsters, we did follow the code, the city's code. We're not asking for any variances or anything in the PD, in the development agreement with respect to the dumpster location. We do have the option under your code and in this development agreement to replace the landscape with some masonry walls there. We just felt that the landscape looked a lot nicer, abutting against that residential neighborhood as opposed to a wall, especially because that dumpster wall will be 6 feet tall and concrete enclosed. But if the direction is to, work with staff on some other options there, we can certainly do that. So then just to go through the PowerPoint here quickly, our client is Madison Bay LLC. They're an affiliate of a company called American Residential Communities based out of the Orlando Winter Park area. And they develop what's called high-quality, affordable housing in Florida. What makes their product unique in the affordable housing market is it's privately owned. It's not government-owned. It's not HUD-owned. It stays owned by a private property owner. It stays on the tax rolls. And so it brings that property tax income back to the city instead of a lot of the affordable housing developments that most people think of that don't stay on the tax rolls because they're owned by a housing authority or the government or a nonprofit. What also makes this unique is it utilizes a state tax credit program. And so that funding is what allows this development to have market rate amenities and features and not be the type of development that a lot of people think of when they hear affordable housing. And we've got examples of more than 2,200 units that have been developed throughout this company's existence, including the Madison Glen project off of Stair House in Ormond Beach. If you drive by the YMCA back there, that's the same client's development. It's a different product than what we're proposing here, but I've got pictures and examples and a video of what is exactly being proposed here for Holly Hill in an as-built development, fully developed, fully leased, with all the amenities. So specifically for our project here, we've got a 5.37 acre site. It's planned for 160 units. Will be open to seniors or elderly aged 55 and over, and it's a two-phase development. So phase one followed by phase two. What makes these developments unique is there is going to be a deed restriction that requires the property to be utilized for affordable housing for seniors for 50 years. So that provides assurances that the property is not going to be flipped, they're not going to turn into condominiums or anything like that.
Commissioner Penny?
Is phase two dependent upon another grant and lottery system, or are they two independent? Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but the award process, phase two would be a separate grant process?
Correct. So we would apply in separate years for separate projects. But
You get more points for a phase two of a two-phase project than?
no, it would stand on its own, but we're doing a lot of things to increase the likelihood that this actually happens through the the lottery system.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we do have the deed restriction that requires it to remain the affordable housing product. And interestingly, Brian brought up, your staff brought up the previous PUD that currently exists on the property. There's a higher density that's allowed on the site than what we're currently proposing. And so in effect, it's going from 393 units that could potentially be built over the 7-acre site down to 160 units on our 5.3 acre site. So even when you flesh out the density, it's going from, I think, 55 an acre to 35. So it is a smaller project in terms of density. Here's just some information on rents based on some government figures that have been provided. They're going to be 1 and 2 bedroom units, 1 and 2 bath units within that product. And so rents would range with utility allowances from between $382 a month to $861 a month. And then the state does require certain set-asides for residents with special needs. And so our client partners with the Council on Aging and other social service organizations to make sure that our seniors and elders with special needs are able to get units as well within the facility. The site plan, again, that you saw during the staff's report, and I just want to point out a couple things. The stormwater ponds in the front and the back, again, the building's moved up close to the Ridgewood frontage, and a nice pool feature in the middle that'll be developed as part of Phase 1, but could be shared, common between both projects. Again, changing kind of the norm and the notion of affordable housing, the amenities that our client provides for their projects are really significant. Everybody comes in by security card for entry, so it's a nice safety measure. There is 24-hour emergency assistance and maintenance at the facility. It is a green building with Energy Star appliances. All of the units do have a washer and dryer as well, so there's laundry facilities in each unit themselves. They do provide community activities, arts and crafts, games, coffee. There's a healthcare services room, so residents can have their healthcare appointments at the facility. They assist with laundry, they assist with grocery shopping as well, all included in the monthly rent at no additional cost to the residents. Again, I guess I jumped ahead a little bit, but those are some of those things we talked about as well. Then they do have a check-in system where once a day, they're going to make sure that every resident is accounted for, which is, really important with our seniors to make sure that they're well taken care of. So I do have a video, but this project is modeled after this facility. This is the towers at Madison Crossing located in Osceola County, and this is the two-phase development that's been built in Osceola County, fully leased, fully built, entitled, and have moved forward. And you can see what makes our development kind of unique is it does look like a market rate housing development, and the mural feature is unique to all of Madison American Residential Communities projects and is proposed for the two facilities here. And so when it comes time to permit that, we would be working with the city and the staff and the artists that they utilize for the vision for what the city would like to see on these murals. And here's a quick picture of just some of the amenities. You see the screened-in lanai, the pool, a shuffleboard court, but we are hearing that pickleball is becoming more and more popular, so
We already got it for you. Don't worry about that.
Absolutely. The billiards room, the movie theater, and the fitness room as well. That is the end of the PowerPoint. I didn't want to bring too many pictures because it makes the PowerPoint really big and hard to load, but we do have the video, so if the clerk can please show that, that would be really helpful. And this is just a series of drone and camera footage that the client went out and took once the facilities were built.
This would be the architectural style.
Correct.
This is what they would look like.
Absolutely. And while this is playing, I did want to note for the record, the items that we talked about being worked out at the planning board meeting were the average minimum was a typo. The word average shouldn't have been there. It was fully intended that there'd be a minimum size unit there. The 170 height was just something carried over from the last PD as well. And then we used the word senior 55 plus as well. Those changes were sent to staff today so that the PD was consistent with what we talked about last night. And that's just an example of the planning board process, working out well the way it's supposed to.
Those are exterior balconies on the building?
Yes, yes.
Very nice. Are there any other questions is that your presentation?
Yeah, that's it. We're happy to answer any questions
Right.
that you have. And again, we have our specific team members as well, if there's anything I can
All right.
handle.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Well, actually, this may be for you. I was looking over it, and just walk me through this because I'm sure that there's some type of calculation. How many units are in the first building? Is it 90?
I believe it's 80.
80 and 80, right?
80 and 80.
80 and 80? And the amount of parking, on one of the drawings I saw, it said 90. Yeah.
Might be a typo. Yeah, that's a typo, right? We're at 80, right? Units per building, yeah.
So it is 80, okay.
Yeah, so that needs to be corrected in the.
Okay, we'll make note of that. And then there are 70 parking spaces?
So we have calculated a 0.8 parking space per unit ratio, and we've provided parking studies to the city that help demonstrate that that is more consistent with the need for parking at the facility. A lot of, the two-bedroom unit owners only have one vehicle between them, or some people may not have a vehicle at all. And so the idea was to keep the parking consistent with what, our studies have shown from the professionals that we worked with, and has actually get played out in the facilities that they've developed throughout the state.
Okay. I guess just my concern is if we run into a lot of folks that have two cars, a husband and wife, if we're running out of parking spaces, obviously I know that the applicant, you don't want to run out of parking spaces, but if you have, grandchildren's, nieces, nephews, friends coming and visiting, where would they park? Along the street? Is that the idea? Has that thought process happened? Thank you. Just state your name for the record.
Stacy Bannock, American Residential Communities. I'm at 558 West New England, Winter Park. So Mike was kind of referring to, we've built over 2,200 units. We have a lot of affordable senior projects. We generally average between them, the average is about 0.70 parking spaces percentage per, so if we have 100 units, we're only using an average of 70 spaces. We haven't run into a single problem in all of our senior projects with doing one-to-one or less parking. We looked at this, and you have the ability to. We could do more parking on here, but then we're running into the open space requirements that they have with the with the city. And then if you build more parking, then you've got a sea of asphalt. And so we're trying to do a better thing here by utilizing less spaces because they won't be needed. But as far as your regards to, if something happened and it was 100% full and 100%, and there were 200 cars out there. Is there a backup plan? We don't have a backup plan for that because it's never happened to one of our projects before.
Okay.
It's the best I could state that.
Thank you. Stacy?
Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
So, the one thing we can say is, in the unlikely event something were to happen with Phase 1, we would have the ability to adjust for Phase 2,
Correct.
knowing that there's common ownership of the property and all that, and we can work through that process.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions for that? Wait 1 second. Mike?
No, I was going to ask Brian something.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. Commissioner
That
Payne.
was my thought exactly, was that if Phase 1 is fully occupied by car collectors, then we could amend Phase 2, but what is the process? Is it easy? They got to go through the same process again because we're approving this whole Phase 1 and Phase 2 tonight? They got to go through the whole process again?
If it were deemed a major amendment, then yes.
So let's say
Come
they
back.
chopped that Phase 2 building in half and added, another 50 parking spaces. That would be a major amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would probably be deemed a major amendment. The code leaves it to the.
I'm sure they don't want unhappy residents.
Right.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Commissioner, my only concern is if let's just say they're 100% full, which I'm sure that they want, and you get quite a few people that have two cars or just have one car, then when visitors come, if they're parking all the way down 3rd Street, we're going to be getting a lot of
other
unhappy.
developments that have issues with parking.
Right.
in our community.
And so I'm just trying to think long-term. And so then my question is, since this would be an amendment, since we're approving it tonight, would that have to then come from the applicant to come back and say, hey, we got to make a major amendment because we need more parking spaces?
Yes.
So it couldn't come from the city where we say, hey, look, we're getting complaints from guests parking on the street in front of all these houses on 3rd Street. Could we initiate that change?
We can
Or no,
certainly-
because we've already approved it as is?
We could certainly initiate the discussion. with the applicant and let the applicant know the issues that we're running into. They provided, as part of their parking analysis, they provided, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 similar developments that they've done throughout the state of Florida. And they all are similar. They've shown based on existing comparable developments, the worst-case analysis in terms of parking. So it's highly unlikely, given a senior affordable living facility, that you're going to have that issue. But if that were an issue, then certainly staff could approach the applicant and ask the applicant. As to whether or not it would be a major amendment, I'm not going to be quick to say yes, because they are asking that some discretion be given within the agreement. They're asking that they be able to make some adjustments and not have it considered a major amendment. So we would have to look at it.
Okay.
I do agree that more than likely, if they were to chop it in half and change the parking and all that, we'd probably be looking at that.
Okay. Commissioner Penny?
Brian, if this wasn't a PUD, what would the city's minimum requirements be for parking? Do they exceed the city's minimum requirements for parking?
They don't exceed the city's minimum requirements, but
Do they
keep in
meet?
mind, with a PD, it's flexible. A PD is kind of a negotiated type zoning, so we don't look directly at and say, these are the parking standards and they apply to this.
Right.
Part of the PD process, they're asking for relief from that. And kind of the same situation with the dumpster. You can't just look and say, this is what the code says about the dumpster and we're doing that.
Right.
It's a PD,
Right.
so it's a negotiated.
Well, I appreciate
thing.
that
Right.
the developers doesn't want it to be an asphalt jungle out there. No one wants to see that.
Right.
Right.
No one wants to pay for unused parking spaces either. And I have to believe that if they've built 2,200 of these things, they must know a little bit more about this than I do.
Any other questions for staff?
One.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
There are other 8 locations they have, are all of them fully occupied? They're all full to capacity, right?
100% what?
With the waiting list.
100% with a waiting list.
Wow.
So, and the other thing, I just want to state for the record, while it is a phased development with, 2 approval processes at the state level, the intent is that if phase 1 is built, our client is the owner of the overall property that you're approving the PD on. So there is the ability to discuss the issues with staff as, the project moves forward and take things into account and not be in a scenario where you've got like a split zoning or anything like that.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commission before we open this to the public? Seeing none. We'll go ahead and at this time, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience here tonight that would like to speak to this item? Okay, we'll take it. I saw your hand up first, Christine, so, yep. Yes, but you only get 5 minutes altogether, okay? Yep.
You get 10 if you do it separately.
Yeah.
Christine Capers, 1440 Riverside. I also own 322 Ridgewood. I have a few questions or concerns would be, I know that Riverside and 3rd Street, we've always had problems with flooding. Now, is there going to be a difference with elevation of this property where we would have drainage, where we would anticipate flooding, which I've never had a problem at my building? That is one thing. Also, would there be anything affecting our taxes with this? Also, another concern is it says 55 and older, but it is a low income. I mean, how low? I'm familiar with a low income being like Charleston Place, and I know all of the problems, so I wouldn't want to have another Charleston Place right there. What else? And also then, when will this occur? When will it happen?
Okay. And we will answer, we're going to take everyone's questions in and answer
And then go
what
all
we
the way
can. Yeah.
down. Also, did they say that it would be government subsidized as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Government subsidized in terms of the tax credits they receive for the development, but not government subsidized in terms of rents.
Isn't that HUD?
It is not that.
Oh, because it said it on there.
They're doing Florida Housing Finance Corporation tax credits, which gives them dollars to construct the building, which allows them to have the rents set at what they are, but it's not government subsidized rents.
Which is Charleston Place.
I probably shouldn't have jumped in on that, but
Yeah, Charleston says it is about.
I have one concern.
Just state your name for the record.
Tony Starita. I own Big Tony's Chop Shop right across the street. So you've got,
Speak right in. We're just
Sorry.
recording for. Yeah,
usually my
we have
voice
to have
carries
everything.
too loud.
Yeah,
It's
I hear you.
overwhelming on the little microphone. So we have 3 motorcycle shops, 2 auto repair shops across the street. You're going to have senior living here that's 55 and up. And I'm assuming, can you pull up that? Can we see that layout? What's that in the center between the 2 buildings?
In the front.
That area.
That's the pool.
Pool.
no, it's a retention pond.
It's a retention pond.
So that retention pond is in the back?
2 of them.
There's
One in the
2 of them.
There's one in the very front and the
And
Phase
what
very
prevents
back.
that from flooding?
Oh, that holds water and then
Right. Well, and once again, we're going to take all the questions in. So go ahead and get
Okay,
all your
so
questions
that's
out.
one of them.
Right.
The next one is because, well, what I stated before, you've got 3 motorcycle shops, I'm a noisemaker, and this is gonna be right across the street from senior living. Are they fully prepared to understand the noise that's gonna come from my side? Not including the bikes that ride by and come into my shop and going? Is that gonna be a problem?
Because we are very busy, during those seasons as well, but.
You know, the car repair guys make a lot of noise next to me at Pep Boys. I make a lot of noise. I'm sure the Kawasaki Yamaha dealer down there, he makes some noise. So my biggest concern is, are we gonna end up having problems with noise complaints?
How
All right.
good are their windows?
Yeah.
Or are they gonna have to put up a barrier or something to buffer that? Because I think it's gonna be a problem.
Well, I know I had a problem like at my home on Riverside, and then when John and I put in new windows, we didn't have a problem. So that's my concern with
If they're prepared for that.
prepared, yeah.
All
That's
right.
pretty much the only problem I'm worried about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I have extra parking that I'd be reasonably charged.
There we go. All right. I think I saw your hand up next in the pink. Yes, ma'am. Just please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille Ingham. I am the owner of 334 and 336 Daytona Avenue. I spoke last night at the other meeting. I want to speak again today, and since I only have 5 minutes, I'm going to go through a few things so we can discuss later. But one of my biggest concerns is that it's in writing about the 80-foot max versus 170-foot, because it's not in writing as of the paperwork that I had last night. So the parking also was an issue. I'm hearing tonight that it's a misprint, that it's supposed to be 80 units per building, but last night it was still 90. So I'm starting to get a little concerned about what's really in writing, what isn't. And you guys approving something tonight that may or may not change. It's not sounding real good right now. I'm not against this, but I have some concerns. The buffering that was approved back in '06 is not in detail on this. And as a resident to the backside of this, that's a big deal to me, because this is what I'm going to look at out of my 2 backyards. And so I do want to address that in detail. The old contract had a stucco fence with trees every few feet, things like that. I seriously want to make sure that we are covering that. One of my other biggest concerns is the dry retention that they have in the picture. If you could bring that back up for people to look at, I'd appreciate that. My backyards are just to the left of that top corner, and I don't have a flooding problem per se yet, but you put a retention pond towards my property where the ridge is, as we all are familiar with. Daytona Avenue is higher than US 1, is higher than Riverside. We don't have a flooding problem there. I'm not real thrilled about having a retention pond put right back there as an overflow. Back in '06, we had concerns about that, and we were told it'll go down to Riverside. Well, if anybody went down to Riverside after Dorian went by, 3 inches of rain, but because of the river, Riverside was closed because of flooding. So that's not an option. It needs to go towards US 1 for better drainage. I would like to, if possible, even consider moving maybe phase 2 to where that retention pond is, maybe the retention pond up towards Riverside, something in that direction, simply because of drainage purposes. I don't have a problem now. I don't want one. And I have 2 properties. I also have a neighbor that has owned, I've owned for over 20 years. He's owned for over 40 years. And a large part of his property butts up to this. We don't have a problem now. We don't want one. And again, we're not against this, but we need to, there needs to be some clarification, some real insight on before you guys approve this. I'm requesting that you really look at this. It's not all cut and dry in my book as far as what we're doing. The other request I have is the home that is not included on this, that was included back in '06, that's 326 Daytona Avenue. I would like to have that rezoned back to residential to make sure that that is never tried, they don't ever try to commercialize that. I was very avid about that in '06, that that house, for the integrity of the neighborhood, needed to stay a house. And it still is, and they rent it, and it's fine, but I want to ensure that that's going to stay that way. Because, I mean, Daytona Avenue's been there forever. We don't need something weird being allowed to get in there just because of a zoning thing. So, and then the other thing is I wanted to bring up too, on page 49 of the packet, Building 1 has a 3-year time span to it. Building 2 has a 5-year time span, plus a 1-year extension, plus a 3-year extension, so you could possibly be looking at 9 years on Building 2, or Phase 2. And that was a question that came up last night that you guys might be interested in, to realize that, it's not cut and dry to happen right now. Because last night it was all about, nobody wants to look at the empty lot as far as the board. I don't care. I kind of like the empty lot because I get beautiful sunsets to the west, and I'm going to lose that. But again, my request is that you guys really look at this before you approve it. I think there's a lot of I's that need to be dotted, T's that need to be crossed. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Heidi.
Hi, I am Heidi Heller of 460 Richwood Avenue. First of all, I'd really like to thank Madison Bay and American Residential Communities for considering Holly Hill for one of their projects. I think with the 160 units, possibly 4 people per 2-bedroom unit, that you're going to have maybe 300 or 400 extra people in the area going to restaurants, going to stores, using the facilities. That also does make a concern because we're going to have these 400 extra people. We have to have the emergency services for them, police services for them. And I know the city will adapt, but I'd like to make sure that we still consider that. A consideration also is with the 400 extra people, some with cars, some not, they'll be using the bus. And I think we need to put a bus and a shelter on 3rd Street, which can gather the bus going west on 3rd and the north route for the bus. So that would be nice. And maybe fix up a shelter for the bus at Publix if they go to Publix, which they probably might do. One of my requests that I like all the time asking is that hopefully that the Madison Bay would consider using the words Holly Hill someplace in the sign or on the signs to give a marker that we are in Holly Hill. And Scott, could you pull up that picture for the dumpsters, phase 1 and 2? So we've been talking about the dumpster on Merriam on the corner left there. That's for dumpster for phase 2. There is a dumpster over there on phase 1 on the right-hand side also. Can we also consider making sure that there is enough cement and hedge buffer for that dumpster also? And on the flyby that we had for the other buildings in the other town, I saw the air conditioning units on the top of the buildings, but I didn't see any TV antennas or TV things or discs. Just wondering, Comcast or no TV or what's going on? And again, thank you to Madison Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Is there, yes, Commissioner Blaze, former Commissioner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Commissioner Blaze, former Commissioner Blaze. I live at 710 Magnolia Avenue. My business is to help veterans. Veterans that come in this area have toys, RVs, boats, motorcycles, things to enjoy Florida with. If you want to see an example of what kind of toys these people have, I know quite a few veterans at the Pendleton, which is on South Peninsula by Silver Beach. We have to plan proper growth, and I know that the city of Holly Hill can only go up. Any improvement to go up is great because we can't go sideways. I have relatives that live in Margaritaville. I don't like it. I used to live at the apartment complex, Marina Grande, on the north side of it. That's not my style. But certain people, that's their style. But they have toys, and you got to consider these things when you plan for growth for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaze. Is there anyone else in the audience that would, yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Barbara Starita. I'm co-owner of Big Tony's Chop Shop at 322 Ridgewood. I just had a question. I saw that, or I was listening that it's a two-phase grant process. Is there any chance that phase 2 wouldn't get approved? And then what would be the outcome if phase 2 didn't get approved and you just had phase 1?
I think they just keep trying and trying and trying until they're successful.
For
Up to 9 years.
for 9 years you could have half of a project. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission tonight on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Joe, would you like to address any of those concerns or bring up any staff? Would you like to make any
I think it'd be
comments?
appropriate for the applicant to address most of those comments, and
Okay.
anything that they can't, the staff will go ahead and jump in on.
Okay. Would you like to address some of those? Thank you.
Again, for the record, Michael Schnapsteiler with Cobb Cole. I wrote down 14 comments. I'm trying to
Okay.
go as quickly as I can. The staff puts together a report. They try to, address everything that could potentially come up. A 100-page report would go to 1,100 pages if everything we submitted was put into the staff report. So just real quickly, on the flooding and drainage, we have to design the site to meet the requirements of the Water Management District. 100-year storm events all get considered. The dry retention is specifically focused on the back side of the property because that is the area where if there is a flooding issue, the dry retention is going to be the best place for that to be. The wet retention's on the front of the property, and it's going to have a water feature, a fountain, which helps protect against mosquitoes and things like that as well. So we've really put a lot of thought and effort into the drainage, and we'd be in a lot of trouble, much bigger trouble with the city and with all the government agencies if our project is flooding off-site properties.
Will the wet retention pond be lined so that it's wet all the time?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
you. The effect on taxes, we know that our development will affect our property. We know that the land going from vacant to, developed with these buildings and these units is going to have a positive effect on the tax rolls for the city. We really can't speak to what the property appraiser chooses to do for the other properties, but our goal here is, to provide a significant tax benefit to the city by having the developed facilities out there. 55 and older, those rents are set by HUD, but this isn't a HUD development. The government sets what the rents are going to be based on income levels, based on the area median income. That's it. And the rest of it is it's privately owned, and it's government subsidized in the sense that the state provides the equity in the project. They provide the tax credits to the lender, to the developer, which allows, you know, a 10, 15, $20 million, you know, development to go forward that can charge the $300 to $800 rents that you see. Talking about the pond again, so we addressed that. Compatibility with the adjacent uses. This is concrete building with hurricane-proof windows. So this isn't, you know, like a walk-up apartment complex where it's made out of sticks or wood or anything like that. You know, this is a concrete building with hurricane-proof windows, and we can go back to the site plan, but there's a limited number of units that actually face Ridgewood, and that was done, you know, intentionally, knowing that that is a busier street. You can see that, you know, the units tend to run, you know, east-west on the longer side there, so that it is a little bit more offset of Ridgewood. But I think that the key answer there is it's a concrete building. It is solid. It's all has to be hurricane-proof to move forward. We did make all the comments, the adjustments that I talked about earlier in writing to the city today. We sent the revised PD agreement with the changes in the building height and the affordable housing and getting rid of the typos there. So that all is all in the PD that's here at City Hall. You know, we are following, you know, code requirements, you know, with respect to landscaping and the number of trees that will be in the buffers per units. That does kind of go around to the phasing part of it. There is a requirement in this PD that after a certain number of years, we've got a landscape along, you know, the frontage of both phases, so that it doesn't sit there and be vacant. Yes, sir.
Is the buffer requirement that we talked about earlier, or was mentioned earlier, is it more or less than the current PUD in place right now?
You know, that I cannot specifically answer.
I think that was her concern, was that when the original PUD was placed, they were told a certain amount of buffer. My question is it more or less than that?
Yes. Right. Right. So there was a city request on the Ridgewood frontage to double the buffer from what was permitted. So I can say, you know, specifically on the Ridgewood frontage, we doubled that buffer, and I believe, again, and evidenced by my mistake of having the higher height limit, our intent was to not vary at all from what was previously approved. So I'll have to double check that for the second reading.
Right.
But I believe our intent was to keep the buffers the same as what was previously approved, except along the Ridgewood frontage, we've actually doubled it. You can actually see the dotted line there, where it says 20-foot setback along.
And just for the citizens that are here, this is not final tonight. All these things we're talking about will be put in writing and come back at a second reading to make sure that all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, okay?
I think going back to the time span, I did make the comment that they're going to own the property. They're required to put a restriction on the property for 50 years, that it has to be for senior housing. If they're going to make that investment in one building and in the entire real estate, you know, they're a private business. They're going to get that second phase. They're going to keep going as much as we can. You know, we hope that we don't have to go 9 years, because that's a significant carrying cost. We're going to do everything we can to you know, get this going as soon as we can. There was a question about timing. The application process really gets going in November. That's when the submittals are made. You find out after the first of the year, sometime in the first quarter, if they get approved. If it's approved, we're in for permits, and we're hopefully breaking ground that summer on the first phase. With respect to the impact of development, you all have impact fee requirements, and so all impact fees and concurrency would be, you know, met at a later date and time, you know, before you could even start construction and get your COs and those sorts of things. So, you know, there's no request to be exempt from any of those requirements from the city, which are all designed to make the city whole for the impact of the development on the property. The utilities are all underground, so there's not going to be any antennas or anything sticking out. All the cable was all underground for the building. And then I mentioned the comment on the landscaping. We do have that requirement in the PD to provide the enhanced landscaping for both phases.
Perfect. I appreciate those answers. Yes, Commissioner Petty?
Any consideration, since this is a negotiation, I heard we addressed almost all the issues except maybe adding a nice enclosed bus shelter out in front of the property. Something that, I know you can't speak right now to that, but it's just something that you may want to address. I would think I think it would be added value. You get points for being next to the bus and all that kind of stuff, right?
So I can address this to say that we have done that in the past. We worked with Osceola County in doing that as well. It'll depend on whether we're allowed to do that to begin with, but we would definitely, if that's something that the city would like to see, we've done it before, and I can say that we do it again, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Forte?
Yeah, I actually talked to Brian about that. I like the comment of the bus enclosure. The shelter similar to the others that we have
Right.
on Ridgewood Avenue that are ADA compliant. The only thing that we would have to ensure is that as part of this development somewhere, first of all, it has to be approved by VOTRAN for the location, and second, because the right-of-way is not big enough, they have to provide us either a permanent easement or extend the right-of-way for where that bus shelter would sit on their property to keep the sidewalk open.
I'm just thinking a lot of the seniors are going to use public transportation. They all don't have cars.
I think it's a great idea, and if it's something that we can do between now and the next meeting, I'd like to try and get that written in there somehow.
Joe, there's a bus shelter, and I know it sits right on the sidewalk, or have they changed that since?
It's got to be
The
ADA
bus shelters that the
compliant.
city put in years ago, if you'll notice that the sidewalks jog around them, which are not, we have, Bud is in the audience, and Bud will tell you when you start jogging a sidewalk for visually impaired people, that's not a good thing. So if we can get that bus shelter set back a little bit.
No, I
keep the
understand that.
sidewalks
What I'm
straight.
just saying about the ones that are already there.
There's not one there.
No, not there. I'm talking about the ones on the sidewalks now.
Don't talk about
I
that.
don't want to talk about those.
Okay.
Those aren't there, Danielle.
They were there because I Mike did it.
Don't talk about
Oh.
the audience.
All right.
Is there any other questions for either the applicant or staff?
The one, the property.
No, I don't have any questions.
The property about residential, or is that Joe's, that wasn't addressed? The young lady's comment about the residential property?
The residential?
In
Joe,
order for that property to be developed, because of its current zoning, you can't do anything on it. So if somebody buys that property, it has to be rezoned back, and the only thing it'll be rezoned back to is the residential property, consistent with the surrounding residential properties.
So it's protected in that
That's up to the
respect.
property owner to request.
They're not going to do it now, because as is, if this project for some reason doesn't go through or they withdraw, the integrity of that larger parcel would stay intact. So it's only if this goes through, then that other parcel is left behind, and that parcel will have to be rezoned consistent with the surrounding.
Does that answer your question on,
All right.
sort of?
Are there any other questions for staff or the applicant? With that, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion needed? We'll start over here with the motion maker.
I just have some comments. First, I want to find out, though, I know it's been a long time, maybe the property owner knows, but how long has that been vacant?
12 years.
I'm going to say
It's been like
at least
10 years or
2000
something?
At least 2008,
6 is the last time we were.
2006.
Since 2006.
That's probably a fair date.
Last night, Robin said 15 years.
So,
About 15.
all right.
Too long.
So my feeling about it is I understand people's concerns, their legitimate concerns. However, I wish people would really get to know their commission of today. It is not your commission of 25, 30 years ago. And yes, I did have a father-in-law on a commission back then, so I can say that.
Me too.
Yeah, you had a dad. So fortunately, we're not that commission anymore. This commission that you have and has been doing things the right way. There's rules we have to follow, and we do follow those rules. There's rules from St. John's Water Management that says what we can and can't do with retention areas, what has to be done, I mean, there's all kinds of rules for everything. That's why government takes so long to work. And those rules are followed now. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that rules weren't followed 25, 30 years ago, but they were probably, bent and misshaped and everything else. But today, they are followed. This commission believes in that, and I just love that about this commission. So my concerns aren't with some of what you've stated, because I know that those are going to be taken care of, because not only do we make sure that they are, we have an outstanding staff that works on these issues to make sure it's taken care of.
Team.
A team. I like the fact that this project I'm being presented with, I don't like the fact that it's 55 and over seniors. I mean, I don't know where you got that information from. I'm 53 and I am not a senior.
I can't live there.
Can't live there.
Yes, I can. My husband's old enough. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but we'll leave it alone. I think our community, though, we've had discussions on this before. Our community is heading towards more of a senior community. I'm sorry, folks, we're all getting old. Our pickleball, we just have so many things moving forward in our community in that direction, and I think we need to embrace it. I don't think this is going to be another Charleston house, as a lot of people were upset about. It's not that type of a housing development, and I just think that you're going to be pleased with what you see. They're already willing to work with us on some minor issues, is what I would consider them. And unfortunately, this lottery thing, it is a pain. Again, it's government, but it's government at a much higher level. I mean, we're a pain. Higher level is a bigger pain. So unfortunately, they have to go through that. I get that. I don't like it any more than you do. I don't think any one of us really care for that, because we have to wait. And I know I don't like to wait. I'm impatient. So I will be, obviously I made the motion, I will be supporting it for some of those reasons, and I have more, but I'm not going to take up any more time.
Thank you.
I'll back down from discussion. That's amazing, huh?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Penny, would you
Just
like
to thank the applicant for listening to the citizens. I think we've addressed most of the concerns, and I too know that the flooding issue is, we have to comply with St. John's water management, and I don't think the property is ever going to flood, and I think the applicant would like to not have that retention pond there and put more apartments, but that's just not something we can do. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to make sure to thank the applicant as well for choosing our city. We're making strides and to go ahead and take this vacant property and turn it into something special that's needed in our community. And as the Vice Mayor alluded to, we do have changing demographic in our city, and you can see it with the services that we're starting to put out with a major pickleball project that's being built right across the street for an aging community. And so I think it's going to fit in perfect. I think Commissioner Penny or Vice Mayor hit it on the head that this isn't a very low income project that most people might think of. These are people that have probably worked their whole life, blue collar workers that now are over 55 and want to live in a community that they don't have to go out and mow their grass every day. So I'm excited for this project coming forward. I just want to thank you for being a part of the community, and also thank you too for making this a concrete block building. There's so many apartments, especially low-income apartments, going up that are wood frame, and it just blows my mind why they wouldn't invest more into that to make it a structure like you're making this into. The amenities are killer. It's going to be a long time till I can live in there, obviously.
There's only 3 people in this room that can't live there.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. But I tell you, it's looks like a great project. I appreciate the time and effort that you put in with the staff. So with that, Commissioner Daniel.
I just wanted to not only thank the applicant, but thank the citizens for coming and voicing their opinions and their concerns. And again, just a reminder, this is a first reading. We will have all the i's dotted, all the t's crossed and everything, just to, make sure that everybody's aware of that. And, yeah, it's going to be good. I mean, pickleball, we got the big bank going with the new pharmacy for more old people drugs, and it's it's right with the theme, so.
Great point, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
Just a little bit. I've been here for 50 years and been in business in this community for like right at 50 years, but I hate so bad seeing vacant property. I just like to see things move forward and developed. And I'm not really a big fan of 55 and older, although I'm quite a bit older than that. But I like projects where there are a lot of kids around, where they can do all the things that kids do and make the noise they do and all. But I think it's a super project. I like to see the one up on Bishop's Farm develop next, but I know this one's going to work. I see it. I see the plan. I see the project, and I look at things from a business point of view, and I really believe it's going to succeed, and I'm so proud we're going to have it, and it'd just be so good to see a development there, especially something that looks like this, taking over what used to be pretty desolate and been desolate for a long time, but I like it, and I think it's going to work. And I thank you guys so much for coming to Holly Hill to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to our communications. Mr. Forte.
I have a couple of things. One is I actually wanted to mention this during the budget discussion, and I just wanted to make you aware that in the police department, we converted there were dollars that were assigned to the part-time police officer budget, and we reduced that significantly to create a full-time police officer position that's going to work specific shifts. We talked about that during the budget presentation, but I just wanted to confirm that that's the direction that we went in.
Okay.
And so you'll see the employee count increase by 1 FTE, 1 full-time equivalent. And the two other things I wanted to mention is we are applying for an ECHO grant for pickleball. We actually have, the Martins have hired Teresa Brooks to apply for the ECHO grant. And in doing that, we discovered two things. One is we have to do an amendment to the old ECHO grant that was put on that property several years ago, so she is working on doing that. But the other thing that I think is more important that I need your position on is in order to apply for that ECHO grant, the fees that are charged to those that are participating have to be level across all persons in the county. In the agreement that we had with the Martins, they have agreed to allow Holly Hill residents to pay a discounted rate. Well, if you're going to apply for an ECHO grant, you can't do that. Everybody has to pay the same. So I need your direction. If you want us to move forward with the ECHO grant, I'll have to bring back the agreement with the Martins to eliminate that clause that allows for a discount for Holly Hill residents. If you don't want to support eliminating that, then we'd have to withdraw our ECHO grant.
Right. And did we already apply for the ECHO grant? Is it in process?
It's in process. It's not.
Okay. Commissioner Daniel?
Can we do a bait and switch with something with the Martins that,
I don't understand what a bait and switch is.
come on now. Cash in the off, no,
I'm not quite sure what that means.
the residents,
I don't know what ALB means.
I mean, it's like a punch card. You just get so many pizzas, you save your maggots, right, Chris?
I've been down that pizza on the road.
Yeah. I'm saying we can't do a little incentive for locals with the amount of times they rent so that their fees are the same.
Can't do anything different for locals that you can't provide to everybody else that's participating.
Well, it's not lowering their rates, it's just giving them some.
You have to provide the same benefits to all.
Don't push your luck, believe me.
I guess no magnets.
Yeah.
Push your luck on something.
And don't publicly talk about it.
Don't ever talk
Whatever
about it.
that means.
Commissioner Penny?
Joe, what's the amount of the ECHO grant we're applying for?
$400,000 coming from the grant, a total for
So the
$800,000.
$400,000 that we would get from this grant would far offset any discount, potential discount to our citizens. Let's say we have to supplement if we don't get the grant, we may be asked to contribute more money to this project. So my point is, it's better to go for the $400,000 grant and offset maybe a $20 discount that 50 of our citizens might be receiving.
I think, Commissioner Penny, if you all remember, my sticking point with the whole project was that we made sure we got that discount for our citizens because we are paying for it, all of our citizens. And I will agree with you that the $400,000 with the budget for this going up and up and up, for the city to have to pitch in another $400,000, that completely outweighs maybe a $20 discount. So I actually agree with you there. Commissioner?
I need to clarify those comments a little bit. The $400,000 that we're getting for the ECHO grant is going to reduce the Martin's portion of the payment.
Correct.
The Martin's portion of the overrun of the original
overrun.
Now, that's not to say the Martins wouldn't come back again and say, we need more from the city, so it does help the overall project and our country. But I didn't want anybody to think it's
not reducing our commitment.
Correct.
It's just not.
And I think the point is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but if we were not to get this ECHO grant for any number of reasons, then we could still hold the original agreement in place, or would we completely change it and not be able to go back to that?
No, to answer what you're getting at is if we fail to obtain an ECHO grant, can we convert back to the old agreement? I would say that would be a verbal agreement that we would have with the Martins.
Okay.
And we would have to put that agreement back in place. But going forward, in order to comply with the terms and conditions of this application process, we need to change the agreement.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments from the commission?
You need a motion?
Do you need a motion?
I think, I really don't need a motion because I'm going to bring the agreement back and you're going to take action on that.
Yeah, you have direction.
And the last thing that I have is we received a request for the Cruise in the Hill Car Show on Saturday, October 26th. And we waived the application fees for Tony Casada to put in for this special event. We tallied up what the city's costs would be for 2 police officers, 2 custodians, and half the cost of the portalets, which is what we would be providing to the project for that day. And that comes to just under $1,200. So I sent that to Tony, and it was his intention to ask for the city to pay for these expenses. So I need to get commission direction on that, and...
Can I have my 5 minutes?
Yeah, come on up, Tony. You have 5.
Go ahead, Joe. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I think he was done. Come on up, Tony.
You can go.
You have 5 minutes.
Can my 5 minutes start after I walk around and give you guys a spreadsheet?
Yep.
I'd like for everybody here to see.
Yes, sir.
Seems that a lot of people, not just in this city, but other cities, seem to think that myself and my partner in another event are making a lot of money off these car events.
You don't need any extra money.
So what I would like to ask the city is...
Hey, Tony, before you begin, just go to the mic and say your name and address for the record.
Tony Casada, 7 Echo Wood, Ormond Beach, Florida. I'd like to bring up a point about the 3rd Street. If we looked at that video and if we paid real close attention to the video, the 2 buildings they showed, the parking lots were half full. And those have to be finished complexes. Okay, 3 years ago, here for Trick or Treat, that we call it in the city, I was asked by a city official, he said, hey, you do cars, don't you? Yeah, I love them. We used to have a car show. Like to have another one. Well, yeah, maybe. Anyway, we all came to agreement and moved it from across the street to the front. And at that point in time, the city commission, the mayor, and Joe took the fees and said, we'll eat them. Sounds like the budget's balanced. So basically what I'm asking the commission and the mayor is I want to go forward with the car show. I'll do the car, if you guys say no, you pay it, I'll pay it this year, I'm done. I want to ask you all for a 3-year commitment, starting this year, to go forward with what we're doing. If you guys want to promote it, put it on, I'll come to work for you. I don't have a problem. You guys do it. You know, they ask about sponsors. We had $2,230 in sponsors last year. Well, who sponsored it? Yeah, Bob's Space Racers, Best Price Trailers, O'Reilly's. Well, how about the ice cream truck? What'd the ice cream truck pay you? He doesn't pay me any rent. I want him in all my shows. Okay? So there's different things. You know, my wife did tell me that I left $50 off this expense sheet that she had on her sheet that I did not have on mine. So, but anyway, there was $18 left last year. We put it in a jar with the rest of the money that was collected here and split it between the two schools. Okay, I'm asking the commission for a 3-year deal. If you guys don't see fit, I don't know if you're going to tell me now or later, whatever, I'll pay the $1,100 this year. I don't have a problem with it. Write your check now if you want it. But then I'm done. You know, when we started this, and I can show you where one gentleman that came to our first show in 2017, I believe, bought a house on Riverside Drive. Did he buy it because of the show? He was here. He wasn't a resident when he came here. He is now, of Holly Hill. Okay, any other questions?
I have a question for you. What is the amount that you're looking for a commitment of the next 3 years?
$1,100 and some odd dollars.
Well, he's not looking for money. He's looking.
Yeah, that
I'm
number.
not looking for money. I'm just.
You're looking for the services.
Yeah, that number changes based
Okay.
on salaries. Those are the in-kind services for providing personnel.
And Steve, can I ask you a question? This year, since we're not using across the street for parking, think we'd get by with one officer?
We could get by with one officer. I will have two.
Would you feel comfortable with that? Okay, so there we cut off another 300?
I don't know if I would agree with that because we're going to be crossing Daytona Avenue and parking over there and.
If we do have additional parking issues on our side streets.
Okay.
So we might have that.
Okay, I'm just trying to help you guys. We don't have a crosswalk. Okay, so whatever you guys want to do, it's fine with me. That's what I'm asking the commission for. And I'm not asking for a year. When we started this, I thought we were going to be partners. If you guys want to make money, I'll go out and sell you $10,000 worth of sponsorships. No problem. Somebody asked me back here in this room a couple years ago, how are you going to make money off of this? I'm not in it to make money. I love cars. I love the group of guys and girls that we have. And that's what it's about for me. I don't need the money. I've worked all my life. I've got my money. I don't need, to make $1,000 off a car show. But I just love sitting with the guys and girls. Some of them are here tonight. Some of them didn't come. They couldn't come. Some of them are upset about it. Well, why would they ask you for it now? I don't know. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for Tony?
Just so that Tony's clear, not that he gets mad at me, I don't have the authority to do this without the commission's
No, absolutely
approval.
not, Joe. I'm not saying you do.
I don't want you to think I'm.
No.
I just need approval to go ahead and do
Are
something.
we looking for a motion or?
We'll be looking for a motion.
One other thing, Commission, I'd like to bring up to Joe. Has the pickleball people been invited to come to the car show and set up a table booth if they
We
could?
invite them to anything we can possibly get.
And I don't want them to send me a check for a booth, but,
Yeah, we'll get them there. We'll let them do displays while they're.
Exactly.
We
Okay.
should let him get there.
I'm done.
Are there any questions for Tony? Any questions for staff?
Depending upon what decisions you make on what the offer that Tony threw out on the table is a 3-year commitment, my only question is what happens after 3 years? Do you stick with it or does it fall apart?
You mean, will I give up doing a car show?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't give it up unless, I'm ill. I'm going to get a hip replaced on a 16th and our car show's on
And
the
then we'll have a race, you and me.
No, I'm not going to give it up.
So we're growing it, is what
I
you're
want to
saying.
keep it going,
Okay.
yeah. I want 600 cars out there. This year we're going to have, we just got a text earlier, we're going to have like 50 motorcycles. That's great. Some people don't want motorcycles, but the guys that were here in the years past, Steve, good people. And the blower cars are coming back.
All good people.
but they know that they're not supposed to do anything. But they are coming.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Better when they do stuff.
Vice Mayor, you looked like you wanted to make a motion.
That's what I'm asking.
Go ahead.
Let me just clarify before I do. So, do I specifically state the personnel that?
Yeah, you're not.
What do you want me to?
I don't want you to quote the dollar amount because that may change with whoever the officer shows up. What I'm looking for direction for is to authorize us to assign 2 police officers and 2 custodians, and we're going to share the cost of the portalets because we're going to be using them on Friday night.
I would definitely make a motion to do that if that's what it took, is a motion.
All right, so we have a motion to approve on the floor.
Is that?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and do a second.
We have a second. Now, is there discussion? Commissioner Johnson, I'll come to you now.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's a first-class operation. I think you do a great job, and I want you to proceed until you can't walk anymore, Tony.
16th, Roy. I might be out here in a golf cart for the show, but I'll be here. Tommy's going to give me a hand, but I've got a couple other people that are going to help me.
I remember you as a young kid, Tony.
What's that?
Still young.
You've known me
He's
since
still a young
I was
kid.
a very young kid, and I appreciate everything every one of you has done for us. I love this city. I keep telling my wife we're going to sell in Ormond and move here. If she finds something on Riverside, we will, but I'd love to live in this city. But our business is here for 50 years. We appreciate everything every one of you has done for ourselves and for the car show. And I would love to see the car show do nothing but grow. Gina's is coming back this year. How she's going to do it, I have no idea. But she gave me a commitment the other day that they were going to do it, which is great for her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know
Before
what
she
she's going to
opened.
serve. It could be
Right,
cheese
right.
sandwiches
Did she say it before Monday?
Yeah, probably.
Sunday.
Goodness. All right, thank you, Tony. I got to
You guys-
continue with commission.
I just have a couple
You made a
comments.
second.
What happened to me?
She made the
go
second
ahead.
after you.
Okay.
No,
You were the second of the motion. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It'll come right to you
Okay.
after, I promise.
I just want to say, I was not the one that asked you, because I'm not a huge car person. I mean, I like them, but I did tell you that first year that I loved what you were doing. You did it great, and I wanted to see it continue. And I think it's absolutely fabulous for our community to have this event. We have the art show. We're starting to build our events. And I think it's wonderful for the citizens of our community and surrounding areas to come to Holly Hill and not only participate in an event we have going on, but also maybe go to some of our restaurants, maybe go to some of our businesses. So it's a wonderful thing, and you have my full support.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Dania.
The golf cart, are you going to stay in one place this year, or are you going to be like all over?
I can't stay in one place.
The only thing I was going to say, Mr. Forte, is do we want to limit it to or do we want to kind of maybe with a, city expense of whatever? What if it grows into twice as much? Is it still going to need 2 officers?
X amount of property, John.
Are we safe with that?
Or you need more than 2 police officers.
I just want to make sure we're safe with what we're,
I think we're fine.
We're
If
okay?
something different, we'll have to come back and ask for it.
okay.
Yeah, we would just have to amend.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if there was a better way to put it in
Yep.
terms or whatever.
Good question.
Okay.
Any other? Okay. Commissioner.
I'd just like to thank Tony and all the people that put this on. I know this commission is working hard on our image and our perception. You have people coming to invest millions of dollars here. I saw Big Tony give me the wink. He wants to work with you on this too. Don't exclude him and his choppers down there.
Well, I'd love to invite Tony.
Tony, you got to go up to the mic.
But, we have the art show, we got pickleball, we got Gina's, we got senior affordable housing. I don't think you could buy this type of press for $1,200. The press that Gina's gotten in the last 2 days in the News Journal is
Yeah.
priceless.
Yeah.
So I'm all in favor of it, and thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Everything they just said, I'll keep it short. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Forte, still
all I
your,
have.
okay. Mr. Simpson?
No comment.
All right. Mr. Gutakis? Yes.
Looks good.
Thank you very much. So I'll start off. I want to say thank you for this website. I know how much you have gone through and all our staff to get this together. And it's nice, Commissioner Penny brought it up that we're working very hard on our image and what we put out. We had a spirited discussion in our workshop about that very same thing. And I think it's going really well. I think that citizens are seeing that we're more accessible than ever. All of our cell phones are posted right there on our website, and that's a good thing. So moving forward, I want to remind everyone, tomorrow we have the ribbon cutting at Phrase's Scratch Kitchen.
I have a TPO meeting.
At 9:30 in the morning. And want to congratulate Gina's as well for the amazing opening. What's that?
I got to grab Joe. I think he forgot something.
Okay. So we're moving forward. It's great for the city. I want to thank the applicant for being here today to answer all of our questions, and the rest of the citizens too. It's nice to look out and see a full crowd out here actually engaged in the process, engaged in your community, getting your opinions out there, because we do listen. This isn't like going up to the state like a lot of us do, and we harp on our legislators, and at the end of the day, a lot of times, unfortunately, it comes down to whether they're red or blue is how they're going to vote. Up here, we listen to everyone's opinions and take them into consideration very strongly. So I always encourage citizen input, so I want to thank you all. With that, I will end it, and we will first start with Commissioner Danio.
Just thanks everybody for coming. Nice to see you, Chris. And I think we covered a lot tonight. We did good, and just a happy birthday to my mom. She's 83 today.
All right, happy birthday,
thank
Mama
you.
Danio.
Commissioner Johnson?
Hey, I think Holly Hill's moving fast and moving ahead. And I like the way the old SunTrust building is almost complete, going to be a nice medical facility. The pickleball hopefully will be done by the middle of next year, is that correct, hopefully?
Yep.
And it's looking good already, I think. And then now we got the other project, hopefully at 3rd Street, that we'll go through. Now we need to work on the Bishop Glen Farm. That's 26 acres, I believe. Maybe we could interest these folks into building something there, huh? At the Bishop's Farm on Flomish up by the railroad track. And don't forget, on Thursday, we have a League of Cities, Volusia League of Cities meeting Thursday evening.
Yep.
In conflict, of course.
Yep, always.
With the Marina Grand for the Chamber of Commerce, just like we did at Robin Hanger had his, and we had can't we somehow another coordinate that a little different? So
We had our meeting scheduled before the chambers changed their meetings. So.
maybe we should have a talk with the chamber. And see if
We should.
So it'd be nice to be able to go to both of them,
You're
but they're
right.
a little ways apart.
Big time.
But that's, I think Holly Hill is doing good right now, moving ahead. I like to keep it going. Thank you. Thank you all for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll yield to the next commissioner here.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Penny?
Just like to thank everyone that came out and told us what they thought, and I hope you appreciate us listening to you. And I think we're going to come up with a better project at the end and solve all the problems. And our city's moving forward, so I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I appreciate everybody that came out and voiced your opinions. I hope to see you more. I too enjoy when you engage with us. Chris, it's great seeing you. You look good. It's fabulous seeing you.
You're not allowed to say that.
Why?
It's politically incorrect.
Well, if not for a female. I have, exceptions. And I too am so proud of this city. I've been on the commission since 2012, and I just think we have grown by leaps and bounds. That wasn't the greatest commission I sat on in the beginning, but it was because of the leader we had that was paid not Mr. Forte. I like to pick on him, but he's a good city manager. So, but now we have a cohesive team that works together. We do have spirited debate, but we still work together as a team to try to do the right thing for all of you guys and ourselves, because we live here too. And so I just hope everybody has a good night. And again, thank you, staff, and thank you for considering Holly Hill for your business. And I hope everybody has a good night.
Great. Is there any further business before us? With that, we are adjourned.
Hey, let them know tomorrow that I'm at the TPO.
Kelly's. That's at Kelly's.
So do I.
Fantasy. I have a lot to say, Scott.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir. I want to give you one of my doses, sir.